Welcome to the Copy Talk Podcast. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer member, FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Financial planning services through Lighthouse Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Shannon Ross is CEO and managing partner of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse and Cambridge are not affiliated. And now, here's your host, Shannon Ross.
Well, happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of
Good
Coffee
morning.
Talk. Welcome, host.
Good morning.
April.
Hi.
What's your middle name? I can't remember. April whatever, Todd. Oh, my gosh.
How many years have
Do you
we been
remember
best
my
friends?
middle name?
Really? Okay, Shannon, Jean.
Oh, my gosh. What?
Jean.
Nope.
Oh, that's my sister's middle name.
What is your middle name?
Don't.
I forgot. Marilyn. Miss Marilyn. While you're watching, text me.
Well, she killed right back.
I know.
It's Lynette, but I actually...
And we should remember, because mine's Jeanette.
Your middle name's Jeanette?
I don't think I ever knew your middle name was Lynette.
Lynette and Jeanette. We are rolling.
Welcome,
We're recording.
We
just had a moment.
About each other
That
every
was,
day.
and that was not an act. That was real. And I totally thought my sister's middle name was your middle name. Okay, that's where.
All right. Well, welcome, April Lynette Todd.
Welcome, Shannon Jeanette Ross.
Hope everyone's having a good week.
Good.
We had
We're laughing.
another 2-hour delay today. You had a snow day yesterday. We're just getting hammered this winter. But
Well, forget snow.
all right.
I mean, it's been, our wind chills at my house got to like negative 25.
I know.
Negative 30.
It was.
It's stinking cold. We
Yeah.
didn't get a ton of snow, actually. I mean, we got snow,
Right.
but it's the temperatures that
I
are
know. And it's sweeping across the
frigid.
country.
There's
so,
a reason I don't live in Alaska.
Yeah. True that.
I'm not, whatever.
Well, we're warm in here.
We're
so
warm in
welcome.
here.
Hope you're
Yeah.
warm in your home or wherever you're watching us or listening from.
Yeah.
We started a new series that we're continuing today. But before we get to that, I did wear my
What?
red, white, and blue. I'm a week
I'm looking at you. I see.
late for closing ceremonies.
You are,
Whoops.
and it's really
but
not.
I also did.
Okay, these are what we need to
my
focus on.
boots. I don't know
Yeah.
if you see it because I don't know if I can lift my leg.
Oh, that a girl.
Thanks.
Get it.
I stretch every
Hey.
morning. But they are red, white, and
Stretch
blue. But a lot of my hats and stuff are in Texas, so this is what I had at home.
Your
So
stretching every morning is paying off. Well done.
you know, at my age, you can just pull something by picking something up.
So you finally wore it all of the closing
I
ceremonies.
did closing ceremonies. I'm a little late, but
Yeah.
I did want to. I don't know if you know the medal count.
I don't. Why don't
So
you
I
share
pulled
it?
that up for this morning
Yeah.
to commemorate the ending of the Olympics.
Yeah.
So the U.S. finished with 8 gold medals, 10 silver, and 7 bronze.
How did we fare amongst all?
4th.
Oh. Who was
So
the top notch?
Norway first, Germany second, China third, and U.S. fourth.
Norway got first, huh?
They sure did. 16.
Way to go, Norway.
16 gold medals.
Wow.
They
Get
killed
it.
it.
Wow.
So,
okay.
yes.
Go
So
Norway.
that's how the U.S. finished if you all were wondering out
Well,
there.
at least we're in the
So,
top 5.
Go USA.
Yeah,
I know.
Go USA.
So that's
Would you
it.
like me to sing the national anthem?
Yes, that would be lovely. Do you think you know all the words?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Just making sure.
Do-
Any
Do you know all the words?
probably. I think so.
Oh.
I'm not going to test it right now,
Oh,
but
I would love for you to.
any sanity spins this week?
You know what? I did. Like last night I met up with a girlfriend. We only get to see each other about once a quarter.
Oh, fun.
And we went to just grab a bite of dinner, and it was an early. It was like 5 o'clock. We ended up I didn't even get home till like 9:30. It was one of those where we just talked. And then actually the last hour, there just happened to be these 2 ladies sitting next to us. One of them, everybody knows how things go now. She kind of
Sure.
coughed and she turned back and looked at us and she's like, excuse me. And she was a whole table away. And she sneezed. Oh, I said, bless you. Right. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, don't worry, I don't have COVID. And I said, don't worry, I'm not concerned if you have COVID or I wouldn't even be here. So, and what I didn't know as they were leaving, they were saying goodnight, but ended up staying a whole nother hour with us. They ended up being nurses at UC Health. Something came
Oh,
up
I bet
about
they had
COVID
some
again
good
as
stories.
she was leaving, like
Sure.
a joke. Her and the other lady, like critical care nurses at UC
Wow.
Health. So So my friend and I just inquired, right? We hear all the headlines
Yeah.
and read, but I
Sure.
don't know anybody who's been like front lines. We have a mutual friend in the children's side, but it was so, they just told us real life stories of stuff that they've seen. And one of them's a nursing director.
What surprised you? Maybe that they told you.
I don't know that anything. Well, I think just it's still very raw for them. They both said things are getting back to normal, which is good. But even they shared just some stories of patients that they lost. And we're talking like a 31-year-old, and we're talking about, and it was, what we read about, yes, younger ones are in, but they're just numbers. And these were real people with real faces, with real stories, who saw family pictures hanging in their rooms, like they share. And so it was a great conversation to have. I don't know that anything just knocked me over as much as how just it is very raw for them still.
Yeah.
The tears were still right there in the eyes of telling some of these stories. So I was very appreciative of their experience.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet.
So it was a sanity spend. I mean, it was fun, but it was a good conversation to have.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's
what about
good.
you?
Well, I had a little bit of extra work last night, and I wanted to do a little bit more prep for today. So I actually went to my favorite Mexican restaurant that I like to go to by myself.
I saw the picture.
And I was in a booth by myself because I had to wait for one of my kids to finish practice. So I was there a couple hours, so I got my work done.
With a margarita?
Uh-huh. And queso and all the good things. So yeah, I sent her a picture saying, like, at least if you're going to work, this is a good office to work out of.
Absolutely. Yeah, your margarita looked tasty, but your cheese,
great.
your queso,
yes.
That's even better.
So
good for you.
So it was a great.
That's a good introvert
I don't do that
time.
very often, but I really,
No,
I do enjoy it when I do it. So that was nice.
I do that occasionally, and that's nice.
It is
like all by
It
yourself.
is. Yeah, and I was kind of in my own corner, so you don't feel as much of a being by yourself. Like sometimes when you're a woman dining by yourself, others take the opportunity to come over and talk to you, but they don't.
Oh,
yeah.
Not if you give off the don't talk to me vibe. Yeah. Not here to chit chat.
No, ma'am.
Well, good. I'm glad you got to do that, even though you were
so
working at the same time.
I know, but it was fun work. I mean, I really like this stuff a lot. I love this series that we're doing,
I do
Spending
too.
for the Ages.
Yep.
So we just started last week. So if you didn't hear the first episode, please go back and watch and listen. What we're doing is we are evaluating and kind of doing some comparison of what each generation spends, what their spending habits are, what some pitfalls and challenges that are unique to their generation. So we're talking about boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials. As you go back and if you remember from last week, April prefers to be called the grandma of the millennials rather than the youngster of the Gen Xers.
That's true. I didn't quite phrase it that way, did I, Ryan? Kelly? I don't think I said grandma.
If you want to be the grandma of millennials, that's fine with me. She thinks she's a millennial, and she's right on the cusp. So we'll call her the grandma millennial. But.
I mean, it says, did you see that millennials referred to as Generation Y are currently between the ages of 25 and 41? How old am I? Anyone? I am 41.
That's right. For another month.
Shush.
My mother, because the grandma thing made me think of this. My mother wants to be called Nana because she feels like it doesn't age her. So if you are the Nana of the millennials,
okay.
Does that sound a little bit better for you?
I'm going to top that by
Okay.
one. One of my friends, you know who she is. They live in Texas. Her grandkids call her Honey.
Oh.
I want to be the honey. That's so inappropriate, right? She's Honey and
whatever does it for you.
Right?
That's
Honey is even younger than Nana, so I'm the Honey. Anyways, thank you for bringing that up.
Yes,
Ryan.
that's awesome,
I appreciate
Ryan.
that.
Thank you. And I think we kept calling Kelly a millennial, but Kelly, what year were you born in?
Late 91.
Okay, so she's like a Gen Zer, or is there a newer one out there?
I think millennial.
Well, technically, millennials, if you weren't born in 1980 or earlier. Oh, wait.
No. You're going
said
the wrong
what
way.
year?
91. Late
Oh, okay. You are a millennial.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
80 to 96. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure everyone's included
Well,
in this room today.
yeah.
So, but we don't have any boomers in the room, but that's okay.
Definitely no.
No, we don't.
Definitely no boomers in
We'll be
this
talking
room.
a lot about them today. So
Yeah.
to remind everybody, boomers, if you're 76 to 58, you're a boomer. If you're 57 to 41 or 41 and whatever, you're a Gen Xer. What?
Say the boomer age again?
58 to 76.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then if you are 26 to 40, or according to April, 41 and 11/12, you're a millennial. So technicalities.
I don't know why I
give you a hard time. I don't care if you're a
I don't
millennial,
care what I
whatever.
am.
Some of your habits do make me. I was chuckling because of your comment about millennials and you being one, and then reading about some of the things that they do. I'm like, huh, maybe she is one.
I was reading through that as well, and I could be. Although the
So
spending
you can
habits
represent your generational class today as we talk. We're going to spend most of the time on boomers versus millennials because there's a reason. They're the two largest groups.
Yeah.
And different accounts, different articles, different census reports show that millennials might have this year overtaken boomers as the largest generational class.
Oh.
But it seems to be neck and neck, and there's some inconclusive evidence. Some do proclaim that the millennials are larger now, but obviously it's only a matter of time as boomers age out of the system.
Sure, that's a good way to put it. So, age out.
Age out.
Fade on.
Fade on. Move on to sunnier pastures. I'm sure my dad will love that.
My parents are going to love that.
11, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but the Gen Xers we said last show are kind of like the peacemakers. Mm-hmm. They're the smaller group in between. They spend more like boomers. They are the highest spending class of category, but they're also the biggest savers of every generational category. So they lead the way. Gen Xers lead the way in housing, utility and housekeeping, food, transportation, and almost everything but obviously healthcare, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're going to kick off the show focusing on boomers first. And again, we're doing this to kind of, for all the boomers who listen to this show, and we have a mix of all listeners because we have about a 50-year span of our listening base from 25 to 75. And if you're 76, please still listen and watch. But we're going to talk through what are some things that you should be cautious about what your generational group kind of tends to fall into.
Yeah.
So just kind of tips along the way.
Are we going to go in order? Like this show will do baby boomers? We're going to do Gen Xers next week?
There's not as much on. What's funny is Gen Xers, because they're kind of like, they're not as interesting, I guess. They're more like steady eddies, you know. They kind of don't have a lot of their own specific spending habit, other than spending a lot. That's really their
that's something to talk about.
Is they spend a lot and they save a lot. So there you go. If you're an Xer, that's probably the life you live. That's the life I live. And every week I'm like, I spend so much. How can but I never can save enough. So actually next week we're going to talk about, okay, these are the habits everyone has. What are some American habits and what we need to do to budget to make sure, like, how should we know how much of a percentage should go towards housing? How do we know what percentage should go towards food, savings, so on and so forth? And we're
talking about that next week.
We are.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I like that.
And actually, I was very thankful for that because I worked on that a lot last night. I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself and always think I'm not doing enough. That's kind of my MO of life, but especially in finances. Because, I mean, how can you save enough, right? I mean, you just never, I never feel like I'm saving enough.
Yeah.
And so it was helpful for me because I went through this exercise myself last night to think about, okay, from all of these different budgetary experts who have studied this and, have degrees in economics and so on and so forth, how much is their recommendation? And so I used that and kind of did my own analysis, and I'm like, okay, now I have like a number. So like, and it's actually below what my goal was.
Did you make a list?
No, but I know in here that if as long as I'm within this range, I should have peace about it. Like I shouldn't constantly be worrying or condemning myself for not saving more. So that was helpful for me. So I think it'll be helpful for all of you next week, especially for those who might still have budget opportunities to write down. So
I don't spend very much. So I just don't feel like budgeting is...
I think we should call in your husband on the show.
Because I don't think I spend a lot.
David, does April spend a lot of money? And I don't know if he would share that conclusion.
Well, no, he doesn't. He doesn't think I spend a lot. Anyway.
So spending.
Yes.
So as we start with boomers, we mentioned this on last show. They hold $2.6 trillion of buying power. So they are a huge group of, they have a lot of weight when it comes to their buying dollar. And some of their biggest categories are food and housing is about their top two. What was interesting as we talk through as we set up this kind of battle between boomers and millennials, is that boomers are moving more to a part-time kind of working capability, making less than millennials. But what's hard is this rub against millennials wanting boomer jobs because they're coming out of college. They're very heavy in student loan debt, which we'll talk in a moment, which is their biggest challenge right now. And there's not enough high-paying jobs. So they're like, why did I just drop, 6 figures on an education,
right.
And their average full-time salary is right around $60,000 a year.
I saw that.
So they could have paid, 3 times that in their education costs, and now, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place for a little while. So, but with boomers, I found it interesting. They also lead the pet spending category, which makes sense of empty nesters and, so on and
buying
so
animals,
forth.
animal clothes.
That's right. Yep. Animal clothes, animal health care, whatever.
Yeah.
And, travel is another really big category for boomers, which we talked about last week. The first half of retirement.
Yeah.
And I have this on my goal sheet too, is like, hey, I've never been, I've not gotten to travel the world, and that's on my bucket list of retiring. I want to travel. I want to see places I haven't been to before. And so that's a high spend category, for them. But what was probably one of the most interesting, and this goes to the challenges side, because we talked a little about this, is when boomers were saving for retirement, they experienced the recession of 2007, 2008, which took a big chunk out of their retirement savings. So now only 55% of boomers have saved money for retirement, which is that was a lot higher than I was expecting. 55%. I mean, the majority don't have enough for retirement. And so why that's a big challenge. And I think that's also why a lot of these reports talk about boomers staying in the workplace longer.
Because they have to. They can't afford to not work.
Where, 30% of them, close to 30%, are staying in the workforce because they have to, they have to still
they have to make up what they lost.
Right. Somewhere.
Yeah.
So, so it's not only the challenge of what they lost back in 2008, but it's also... now they have growing costs in healthcare, and healthcare, all of us feel that impact.
That just goes up every year.
It's just astronomical every year. But they have this kind of gap, some of them, before they can qualify for Medicare or supplemental insurance, or even if they have supplemental insurance, that's costly.
Oh, yeah.
So their healthcare cost is probably the second challenge that they face. And then the third is the debt they carry. So because of the debt they're willing to hold on to, their average level of debt per boomer is about $96,000, almost $97,000.
Wait,
and
is that including like mortgage, house?
That's the average.
Okay.
That includes all categories.
Okay.
But their personal loan debt is 18% higher than the national average.
Wow.
So, and we talked a lot about that of, maybe it's harder to downgrade house size. Maybe they want to continue to have a new car. Maybe they don't, they own things. They certainly own things, but they still, and they were really the first generation coming out of college with income. And look at how many companies changed their branding, changed their product set. I mean, look at car manufacturers. It was really the boomers becoming drivers that led all of our, domestic car companies to create, speedsters and roadsters that they didn't have for their parents' generation, So again, debt would be the third challenge that boomers face. And so if you're a boomer out there, what to do about it, we'll talk a little bit more next show about how to build the right budget. So what percentage it should be towards your housing. Are you over that? Where can you kind of cut back in certain places so you can retire or work part-time and not full-time,
What was the statistic, though, that you said as far as it's higher than the national average? I wonder what that is in comparison to millennials. Loans. What did you say? What statistic
Well,
did you
their
give?
national debt, their average debt level is $96,000.
No, it was after that. The loans.
18% higher.
Yes. I wonder what that is in comparison to millennials.
Yeah. Well, I know their credit card debt is above millennials. So the average credit card debt is $6,800 for boomers, and it's $4,600 for millennials. So I think that's an indicator to show, when we talk about millennials in a second, they do carry debt, but it's only a single kind of debt. where boomers carry debt across multiple categories. So personal loans, credit cards, mortgages, those are the main debt categories that boomers don't seem to be bothered by. And maybe, you know, boomers, because not every boomer is retired yet, right? So
maybe that's why they are in more debt, especially since having lost, a lot of them lost significant amounts either in their 401k or savings, whatever, back in the recession.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure if you look at the older side of boomers, they probably have less debt than the younger side of boomers. And that tends to be the case. But, you know, so if you are a boomer, you know, you have a lot of spending power. You like to spend money. You have important categories. You like to, they even behaviorally break it down where boomers like to spend a lot on, you know, groceries to host large dinners and family gatherings at their house. And it's not as much of a takeout budget. It's more in their home budget. And I think that's kind of when I think of the boomers I know, that definitely holds true. And so it's interesting. So we'll talk about some budgetary ideas next week as we go through that. But comparatively for millennials, I think they fascinate me so much, probably because boomers and Gen Xers, which I'm a Gen Xer, we're the same. I mean, if I look at my budget, housing, food are my biggest two. You know, so we share the largest spending categories. And then there's the beloved millennials.
Well, we're thankful we provide you entertainment. Yes. We're glad that we can give that to you.
And so as we compare, let's start with some of the unique things. And we mentioned a couple last week. But millennials are not owners. They don't want to be owners. They prolong ownership. They are lifestyle. They are all about lifestyle. And so what we see with millennials, instead of having large debt in the housing category or in the transportation category or personal goods, they rent everything, and not rent to own concept, but a rent to borrow concept. So to maintain this lifestyle, so there's in these reports, they rent furniture, they rent clothes, they rent apartments or homes, they rent cars. They, you know, like think of really it was the dawn of Uber and Lyft, and you know, I mean, I have some friends who have millennial children in college, and their biggest bill that they had to like fight against their kids in college was their Uber bill every month.
Oh my gosh.
Like using Uber like daily to go to places.
Yeah, versus driving. Well,
because they didn't have a car, so they would rent Uber or, Lyft and get rides everywhere. Yeah. And there's even a lot more apps now catering to the millennials of renting cars from people out there. Turo is one that I just learned about, where you can rent someone else's car and they'll drop it off at an airport or your house or whatever, and you just use it like a rental car, but it's someone else's just vehicle.
Well, I thought this
was cool.
I thought this was interesting. I can't talk. Interesting. Millennial net worth has grown more than 200% since 2018, but this generation still possesses less than 10% of total net worth. So that's right in line with that. Yeah. In addition, though, what I thought was interesting is that millennials spend 21.6% of their income on housing, more than Gen X and baby boomers. So obviously rental, but I'm just saying.
And I was thinking about that because I think renting is more costly. Oh, yeah. Especially over the long haul.
Oh, for sure.
So renting, that makes sense that they would spend more in the housing category.
I think that's the part about, and we talked about it last week, that confuses me about these statistics and the millennial spending habits is because they rent mostly everything. Mm-hmm. Well, renting anything over time is going to cost you more than if you purchase the product. And yet they're more budget conscious and they spend less. Like, I think that's the conundrum for me.
That's what makes them fascinating. I love that they want to live within their means. I think that's really great, but they're not willing to sacrifice lifestyle. So they're honestly kicking the can down the road, in my opinion, maintaining this lifestyle, but not building any wealth. So that's the pitfall for my millennials out there listening to the show. You don't want to rent so long that you have no financial worth. We love you. You always have worth to us, but financial worth, that's...
Wow.
I just wanted to make that just because I was going to say something. I was like, oh, they're not, they still have worth, but their financial worth.
We have worth, don't we, guys? We love you too,
Shannon.
Struggle
on the financial worth of things. Because what makes someone's net worth? It's not your primary residence, just so you know. It's any secondary homes you have, any investments you have, any cash on hand you have, the different assets that are everything else other than your primary residence. That's what goes on your balance sheet, your net worth sheet.
Yeah.
And so if they don't have any of those things, of course, and a lot of millennials I know really struggle to get their first credit card. Why? Because they have low income to report coming out of college and they have no assets.
Yeah.
And even if you're, in your late 20s, I've known a lot of millennials hard to get a credit card because they don't have a lot to show for it. So their credit scores are still building, or they don't have a credit score, or, there's certain challenges out there that are unique to them.
When I was coming out of college, they were like throwing credit cards at us. And I can assure you, I didn't have any.
Well, I think that's some of the regulatory change that came out of the recession of 2008, that the rules, the hoops are a little bit harder to jump through. So their number one pitfall, I think what stems all of these different changes of behavior is their college loan debt.
Yeah.
So their school loan debt. So they owe, as a generation, $500 billion of student loan debt. That blew my mind.
That is crazy.
$500 billion.
That's
bananas.
I thought one of the statistics, and maybe it's the younger millennials, I don't know. And what's the generation? Gen Z?
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was a statistic about, aren't there fewer millennials, just generationally, even into Gen Zers, that are not going to college?
I don't know.
Either because they don't want to incur the student loan, and they're finding out that they can get some significant high-paying jobs. I mean, for starting out, that people are no longer, they aren't requiring.
Well, and I think that's a potential. If you're a younger millennial listening to this show, knowing that student loan debt is really taking your generation out by the legs, by the kneecaps. You can maybe look at a trade school or look at delaying college until you can pay cash for it, or what have you. Because yes, the front end of the millennial generation, their parents sent them, or they wanted to go to college at these fancy schools, and college prices from when we went to school versus college now, crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember at University of Tennessee, there was a flat fee. You paid, and I was out of state, and it was like $12,000 a year, but it was a flat fee. I could take 30 credits or 12 credits, which is why I took 30, but you paid the same fee no matter what.
Wow.
So I got out of school at 36. I went for 3 years, went crazy on my schedule. 3 years, it was like $36,000. That's like one semester. Most of these schools these days. And so it's changed so much. So I understand the plight. And they're coming out of college, and they're not, no one out of college makes $150,000 a year, they're coming out making the normal, 50, 60 grand, feeling good about it. But now they have this massive debt raked up of $200,000 to $300,000 that they have to chip away at. Heaven forbid you go to graduate school or medical school after that.
No wonder they feel like they can't buy anything.
They can't buy anything. I mean, they're in between a rock and a hard place. I totally get that. And so if you're a younger millennial, community college is great for the first 2 years. You knock out all your core credits and then go to a university campus.
Much cheaper.
That is key. I'm still trying to win my own kids on that concept, but they're hard to
all just want to leave.
I know. Away. But it was funny, and here's where I do think that you do spend like a millennial, was one of the things that made me laugh the most.
Where?
So this is a little tidbit about April. But
did I authorize this before the show?
44% of millennials prefer shopping online because of fast shipping. This woman will only buy things and will pay absorbent amounts for fast shipping because she's like, if it's not can't be overnighted, she moves on. So fast shipping, and you have her as a consumer.
I only go in stores. I refuse to online shop because I'm even more drastic than you are because I have to have it in my hand immediately.
Oh, okay, so that's why you don't online shop, because you don't want to pay. You want it now.
I want
right
it now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, man, you're not a millennial if you don't online shop.
Oh, well, that's the majority. They actually tracked millennials spend on average, which also blew my mind, 211 minutes a day. That's like over 3 hours on online ads.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I don't do that. I don't have time for that.
Put down your phone, millennial generation. Join us, have the conversation.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So,
well, it's funny you said that, because I read this article yesterday about, and I'm not going to quote the article because I can't remember exactly which source it was from, but essentially it's encouraging people and maybe this is really for the millennials out there, but there is if you go into your phone settings and turn off like is it your cellular data? I'm so not tech savvy, but it's something you can turn off on your phone so that you can't always just get online to shop or Facebook or social media or those kind of things. So it actually cuts down on your ability to even get on those sites so that it, gets your phone out of your hand, but in addition keeps you from online shopping all the time.
There you go.
And I didn't do that, but I'm just saying it's recommended out there.
You can do that. You just choose not to.
I don't spend 211 minutes online shopping or even on social media.
I know.
For that matter.
The last thing as we finish up millennials, because they're delaying families, egg freezing is a big spend category for them.
How much does it cost
aesthetics,
to freeze 1 egg?
aka plastic surgery, but aesthetics is another big one. And that's mainly because they take 54% are more likely to buy a product recommended by a social media influencer. Yep. And that's what our kids watch. I mean, my kids watch influencers constantly.
Well, I will say this. They're also more likely, statistics show that millennials are more likely before they make an online purchase, they will look at reviews and testimonials before they purchase something.
That's right.
And if they find a product and there aren't any reviews, they will find a social media influencer before they will purchase that product.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that that's a bad thing.
No. I mean, a boomer looks for personal endorsements, so if your neighbor tells you that's what a boomer will spend money on, and a millennial needs looks at an influencer, but they think of the influencer as like their friend. Like when my kids will talk about who they watch as influencers, like it's their buddy.
Like they know their their personal.
Know these people,
and these social media, the influencers. It's not like they're. I'm not saying they don't do it because they don't genuinely love the product, because I think people genuinely do. But they also have they are incentivized to promote certain products online, especially in the beauty industry.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll focus more on budgeting next show.
I think I'm going to be sick next week.
Oh, you better not. 58% of your generation lives paycheck to paycheck, so you need to turn into our budgeting show next week.
Yep.
We'll teach you how to not live on paycheck to paycheck. And
you want to make me build a budget next week on the show?
Yes, that would be really great.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I'm going to be honest, but I'm kidding. Yeah, I'll do that.
And I can keep you to it, and we'll track it.
Because then tune in, because me building a budget on the show is
so before we close, where can people find us?
CopyTalkPodcast.com, our website, Instagram, CopyTalk Podcast. What's our hashtag? Hey, yo. Where are you at?
I'm pondering.
Yo.
What you got?
Hashtag OK Boomer. Can we turn that into a positive?
Boomer?
Yeah, have you heard that?
No.
The OK Boomer?
No, what does that mean?
It's usually what younger people say to older people when they're like trying to lecture them.
Oh,
yeah.
Can we take the power, like OK Boomer, instead of...
Well, I'm glad you said it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
It's hard to do the right inflection on a hashtag, though.
Well, people only know if they're listening, and they listen to your inflection. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Ryan said,
there you go.
Hashtag
so
okay, boomer. Did I do that right?
We'll bridge the gap. We'll be the peacemakers in
Ryan's
between these
fun of
two.
me.
So tune in next week for our budgeting show. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
And
wait a minute.
where'd our bell go? Ding. It's
Kelly.
all right. And where can people find the best version of this show,
ding.
April?
YouTube.
That's right.
Subscribe. Share with your friends. Pass
have a great
along.
week, everyone. We'll
Thank
see
you, everybody.
Next week.
Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Financial planning services through Lighthouse Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor. Shannon Ross is CEO and managing partner of Lighthouse Financial. Lighthouse and Cambridge are not affiliated.